Hi guys, and welcome to day 17 of building a Delorean time machine in just 20 days. Today we're going to be looking at a lot of the wiring on the car, inside and outside, and a few little detail pieces. So stick with us and see how we get on. Also, this is a quick shout out to Makita UK. Thank you guys so much for your support, because without your range of tools, I wouldn't have been able to build this car. So a big shout out to them and thank you. If anyone wants to go over to their page and check out all their different tools, they have a huge variety and range. So please check them out. Hey everyone, and welcome to day 17. Right, I'm going to be looking at a lot of the wiring for the back of this. So we've got wiring coming off of one terminal strip on the bulkhead. I have another terminal strip down here. I also have another terminal strip behind the green torpedoes. And as well as that, I've got wiring coming out of these two glands and on top of here. So I'll have a little look at reference photos and we'll see if we can get that all lined up. I'll also be finishing off the Mole Richardsons, and I've got another piece of hose which is going to come out of the janitrol and go into the bulkhead. So I'll be making a fixing to match the film used one, and we'll get that on as well. So yeah, see you in a minute. So before I get any of the wiring done, what I wanted to do was get this little bit of hose fitted. Now this sounds quite easy because it just goes inside the janitrol, but this then goes onto a little unit and goes onto the wall there. Now I've got to make that unit. So it's pretty much a little rectangle with a bit of pipe coming out. So I'm going to quickly cut a piece of maybe dye bond or another plastic section that I can then cut a hole in. We'll get the pipe fitted. We'll then paint it, sand it, and we'll get it fitted so that this will slide into it and it'll look like the one out of the film. So I've just cut this pipe. I found this in a plumbing store and it's got a nice little lip. The other thing is it's a nice tight squeeze for this to go into. So what I'm now going to do is make a little plate with a hole in that I can bring this from the back of, and then we'll paint it. And then when that goes in the janitrol, it should look like that against the bulkhead in a plate. So we'll get that done and I'll be right back. Right, hi everyone. So the reason I've cut two of these is I've got one circle bigger than the other. And because this little pipe has a lip on it, I can do that and it doesn't pull through, but then I've got a raised section. So by having this section on the top, it fits over that little bit. So there's a small lip in there, if you can see that. And then by popping that in, it means when that screws, that can go tight to the wall without anything sticking out, and it means this has then got a little bit extra stability once it's in. So I'm going to glue that together and then I'm going to paint it black. We'll mark the holes out and then that will sit in there nicely, and that will then sit on the bulkhead and should look good. Hi everyone, so I'm going to be gluing these sections in. So first off, I'm just going to line this very quickly in the corner so that this won't move. Right, a little bit on there, and a little bit around there. Perfect. It should be when I pull this tight, that should squeeze in that gap. Rotate it around like that. Lovely. I'm going to pop this plate over the top. That should bond those together and bond that pipe. Yeah, there we go. So there we've got a nice bit of pipe inside our little metal plates. So it looks like a metal fitting on the wall, especially when I quickly sand this and give it a lick of paint. So I'll do that now. Right, so I've now got my little section there. What I'm going to do is take a little bit of sandpaper off just to put this on. And just give it a little spray. So I've gone slightly heavy on this because what I want it to do is look a little bit mottled. You'll also have to excuse that it is a -4 in my workshop today, so it's pretty cold. So I'm just going to use this little battery heat gun, see if I can help just kill the surface on this a little bit so we can maneuver it in a minute. Make sure I get every edge. So I'll be back in a moment when this dries. Right, that's touch dry now. So what I'm going to do is apply just a tiny bit of this. It's a silver vehicle touch-up paint. And what's really handy is if I just a little dab there in the corner, what I should be able to do is just pick this up now. I'm going to dab this just on my finger slightly. It's quite tacky. And then just ever so slightly rub the edges right on the corners pretty much. And what that's going to do is just give it a little bit of a metal effect and feel. Now you can, if you want, rub a few little bits just down it. And what it will do, just give it a slight metallic-y look and make it feel as if it's a bit of beaten up metal. That's a bit scratched and stuff because the one in the car is slightly scratched up. And then you can make it seem as if you've got a little bit more realistic-y to what I had. So I've just done that quickly. If I bring that up to the camera, you should be able to see it looks just a little bit metalish. We will be doing in the next episode with the airbrush and a few other elements, dirtying and making everything look aged and a bit more film realistic. So now that's ready, I will put the two little screw holes we have. I might do 4 just to so I know it's definitely bonded on, and then we can get that little hose fitted. Hi guys, right, so there's our finished piece. And what I've done is, if it zooms in a little, I've actually added a bit more super glue to the edge of here to make it look like a weld. So it's a really easy trick to do. And all you do is you bunch it up and then spray the activator, and it gives it just that little bit more of what should look like a weld look. So hopefully, I position this quickly. Should sit there. It sits right over the... Pulled me mic off, sorry guys. There we are. It sits right over the top of the Janitrol and the heater tube. Like that. And if I get this one in, Just double check that straight on the back section, down on the right a little. I think that's a good position. Yes, that is. So the one on the film on the A car is right in between the janitrol and the heating one, and it's then splits the difference between the top of the roof section and the janitrol. So if I get this one in, there we are. And then a little bit of pipe that I have here should, in theory, squeeze inside. Then it goes underneath this and then tucks into janitrol. And then we have a little bit of tape going on this, which I'll do when it comes to putting the tape on all the little sections. But there you go. And that is that little one installed there. So I'm going to start figuring out the wires for those two, and also this one here. So I'll start that now, and I'll be right back. So I've got 3 separate cables here. These 3 go to these 3 cannons near the red capacitors. Now, what I've got to do is actually feed that under there. It goes over the top of that section. I'll move those 2 out of the way for the minute. Then these 3 will line up. One there, and one there. 1, 2, and 3. So I'll poke those in, and then this just tucks behind this section here. It'll just get in there. So I will I'll start attaching those now, and yeah, I'll be right back. Hi guys, right, so I've got my 3 cables running down and going into the cannons. So now that's running underneath this first section, up and over and tucking behind that 0 box. Same with this Mole Richardson plug that's now fitted. It runs along and down and goes kind of over the top there, so I'll stick a little cable tie. Then these do a little loop and join this and continue down. So we'll be getting that in a minute. I also have these little aluminium pressed discs, and these go on these 2 little sections that I've got here. You might not be able to see them from the camera, but they do just slot and screw on there and there. And that's our 2 little discs that go on the back there. Right, I'm going to get this Mole Richardson one in, and then we'll start on these cables. Right, so I've now got this Mole Richardson plug. So the cable just tucks in there, and then this is going to sit in there. Just got to give it a little bit of a wiggle to get it in. There we are, nice and tight. Yeah, that's in, and then this tucks in there. So I'll put a cable tie on those now just to hold those in position, and then we'll start on the colour wiring that will run down as well. So, hi guys, right, I've got my first set of wires. Now, if I carefully lean over on this, I should be able to get these into this grommet. Poke all those through the hole. I've done the exact same amount of cable, so hopefully it should be a reasonably tight fit. And these are going to go up and over like that, and they cable tied to this hose. I'll just get all of these tucked in neatly. Like that, perfect. Line that up and screw that in. Nice. Now, I have a nice little loop on this, and then it gets cable tied to that. So I think some cutters there and a cable tie there. Cable tie that in. It's a white cable tie. It goes down about there. And just make sure that looks about right. Which is, swoops up, doesn't come above the wormhole. It's about there-ish. And then that cable ties tight there. The cable ties actually around that way. There we go. And cut. I've not done it too tight, so I can maneuver it if I need to. Let's get rid of that before we lose it. Put those on the side. And then this continues with this under that section. And then it continues along, and we'll get another cable tie in there. It's so cold in my workshop. The wires are actually pretty stiff, but they're usually quite malleable. So I'll come around that side and pull that through. That's the first set of wires. Yeah, about there. Yeah, good. Hi guys, now I've got my second set of cables, which are going to run in and amongst this section here. Once again, they're the same amount of number of cables as the film car. Tighten that up. Watch that in there. So these ones actually come downwards. They open a little bit there, and then they cable tie to this, and they just tuck in there. So I will get our those all on the top. I'll get our cable ties on there. We'll get that secure. So we've got one cable tie up the top near this. It's quite near that bit. Shows on that side there. There we go, like that. Nice. And then this runs along, tucks in on the top of that, down there. So I will cable tie that down to that. There we go. There we are. That's the second one in. Nice. So the left-hand side has an up curl and down. What we'll have to do is actually just bend this in a bit more. Should be a little bit more like that, but it's so cold it's really hard for these to actually stick where you need them to. And then on the right-hand side, it goes down and back up and rejoins and goes in behind the zero box. So I'll now look at the wires that go in the top of this, and we'll have a little look. I've also got the cables ready for this gland. Now, these ones plug into here, and then they also go into this terminal strip. So I am not going to film putting them into the terminal strip purely because I need my phone for reference photos. But this top section should plug all in there. There we are. And I should be able to tighten this. Get it right. There we are. That way around. Actually, what I'll do is this. Yeah. There we are. Cross-threaded it slightly, so you need to make sure you're extra careful not to cross-thread when that happens. There we are. So I will wire this up and I'll show you after. Hi guys, so I've managed to get this top section done. So it should go something like that, or maybe down there, and I'll mold it in. Now what I'm going to do before adding this section to go down to here, I'm going to do these because I have two little wires that come off of here and they run down and clip onto here. So I want to get that done before the rest of the wires go over the top. So I'll get that done next and I'll be right back. Hey everybody, so I'm going to be doing the twists on these now. Now this is a orange wire and it is a curled wire on this. So there's 4 curls. On this side they curve inwards and on this side they curve outwards. So I'm going to do 2 in, 2 out. So first what I'm going to do is actually get a piece of wire. So this is a 12mm drill bit and that's about the same sort of size you need for a telephone wire. So by doing this, wrapping it around this, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and covering that off there. What I'm going to do is actually put a tiny bit of heat on this, and then what will happen is actually when you pull it off, it should stay like that. I want it a little bit tighter together. So it's not far off, but what I'm going to do is apply a little bit of heat, and that should be the right sort of thickness we want as well coming off of there. So yeah, I'm going to make 4 of those quick, and I will be right back. Hi guys, right, so I've now done the orange wires on this. They are curled the right way, so these 2 are curled outwards, and these 2 are curled inwards. And there's 12 rings per wire, and that matches the A-car. And then I've got 2 wires that run behind and go into the box, and then 2 that actually go up and over, and they connect there, which is where the original ones do. So now that's done, I can try and get the rest of the wires from here to run along and connect to this one, and then they run along and into there. So I'll do that next, and I'll show you once it's finished. Hey guys, I've just done some of the wires going into that, and now I'm going to connect the 2 together. I just thought I'd show you, I glued these 2 in, but I'd not done this one yet. So this was the blue bolt that I had painted, so it looks like it's anodized, and they go in the end of these torpedoes. So what I do is once I get it to that stage, I run just a little tad of glue and rotate around. So it's the whole way around the edge of it, and then just carefully pop it in and just making sure that one of the points is facing upwards on these 2. And there we are, they're stuck in position. So yeah, they look quite nice, and it's an easy thing you can do with a regular bolt rather than having to pay for an anodized one. I'm just going to get that last section of wire through, and I'll be right back. Right, here we are. So we've got some of the wiring that goes from a separated top and bottom, but we've got wires that go up and down and around. We've got the wires that go up and then back into the gentrol. And we've got the wires that loop around coming out the top of the flux boxes. Now, all in the correct place. We also have the little one down here. So we've got ones that run behind here, and then these ones run down to there. And we've got our orange on, and they're connected back up to that. So that looks a little bit more messy now, but actually it's as the film car is. So it just gives it a bit more authenticity when you've got that much. We've also got the hoses running down from these 3 cannons now. They run down and up behind the zero box. And then we've got obviously the ones coming out the top of the zero box running down around to that one there. So that's not bad. I'm going to leave it there for today just because it's so cold I can't feel my fingers. But that's nearly the entire of the outside. I do also have, I'm waiting for 3 more purple clamps to arrive, but I'll do it tomorrow, and we'll connect this up, which is the 2 Mole Richardsons, and then there's 3 little swags here, and we'll get that all connected. Then that is the exterior of the car all wired up, and then we'll move to the inside on day 18. So thank you guys for watching, and see you soon.